And by the way, in expectancy theory, it's written to be integrative. There are ways to look at that and find Hertzberg's two-factor theory or reinforcement theory and find them right in that expectancy model. Hertzberg's two-factor theory, I'm going to spend a moment or so on that. Hertzberg presents the most likely, I think, useful motivation theory in that it both talks about satisfaction and motivation. The human relations philosophy initiated in the Hawthorne study says the happy worker is a good worker. Therefore, satisfied workers are motivated, and dissatisfied workers are unmotivated. Hertzberg disagreed. But so does my experience disagree. So does the research disagree. His point is that he doesn't have a one-factor theory like that. He has a two-factor theory. Job dissatisfaction and motivation are two different issues. They're two different topics, each with its own consequence, and really each with its own basis. And he calls the extrinsic factors, things outside your skin. He identifies those as things either you're satisfied here or you're some level of dissatisfied. And so that's the, if you will, the hygiene or the extrinsic factors. That's the term that he uses I like best because I think hygiene's even more misunderstood as a word. And then there's the intrinsic factors. You're either not motivated, that's the zero, or you're some level of motivated. And Hertzberg's big point, and really all of the humanists, is that intrinsic factors are what really motivates you. In other words, you're not motivated by others. You motivate yourself. And since that's internal, then it's internal factors that are always going to determine that. Well, that's a complex thing, however. Well, let's see here. Things like the work, the coworkers, the supervisor, the pay, all those things are out here. They're all outside the skin, of course. And so they contribute to satisfaction, this level here, or dissatisfaction here. These things, however, don't affect performance directly. They have their own outcome, and I'll cut to the chase on that. That is, the outcome of a lot of dissatisfaction moving down this line is turnover and other avoidance behaviors like missing work. The intrinsic factors are judgments and estimates in the worker's mind. How valued am I? How much freedom or autonomy do I have? How interesting is this work? How much respect do I receive? And these things don't affect the satisfaction. Instead, they deal with motivation, and cutting to the chase, we know that the motivation is the invisible step that comes before performance. So these two factors work independently, and as I say here, therefore, all four possibilities on a 2x2 chart would be available. You can be satisfied but unmotivated, plenty of those people. You know, they're very happy here and they're just not very good in performance. They'll probably be with you forever. There's the dissatisfied, unmotivated. Hopefully you can get rid of these people. They're not performing and they're unhappy. They'll probably get rid of themselves by turning over. The dissatisfied but motivated. We all know people who seem unhappy, and Stahl has some explanation for that, saying that dissatisfaction is primarily a personality type factor, and then also affected, of course, by the external environment. So you have the unhappy good worker, and then you have the happy good worker. So you have all four possibilities. They're all out there, and one as likely as the next. This is good news, bad news theory. The good news, people aren't motivated solely by money. And negative dissatisfiers lead to turnover and absenteeism. The bad news is that we're not very good at improving the thinking inside of the person, those intrinsics. Making people feel valued, respected, and important are rarely in an organization's prime directive. So you are a little more challenged in job-based or structural approaches, although Maslow in his writing and other humanists like Hertzberg say that what you need to do is make the work interesting, and then that will be intrinsically motivated. So that's a really job or structure-based approach. Leadership approached would be to try to emphasize those non-financial intrinsic motivators, if you would, and then also try to get good fit with external aspects of a job and a person's satisfaction level, and to lobby all they can for as good satisfaction type extrinsic variables as they can. You can fit Hertzberg's theory into expectancy theory by, for instance, in expectancy, looking at those rewards and thinking of them as intrinsic or extrinsic. I'm going to try to move quickly here. Equity theory is a deal. I have a deal. I get outcomes and I make inputs. That's my deal. So I'll do this for you. And it's not just as simple as I work 40 hours, you pay me, $50,000 a year. It's not just that. There's a lot in that deal. There's a lot of special things in each of our deals, in a sense, even at the manufacturing factory level. There's some considerations in our deal. But however, equity theory is not just about our deal. That's not equity theory. Equity theory is our deal compared to someone else's deal. And we as Americans, I always say this is the American model, because we're always looking for somebody that'll make us feel dissatisfied, this piece here. We're always kind of cruise for that. We're looking for ways to find out where our deal's worse than someone else's. So, I often think just so we can be unhappy. Exchange, justice, balance theories, they all receive a lot of attention these days. People do complain about a lack of equity. I don't think this is a straightforward motivation model as much as the others, but people could cut back their outputs when they think things are out of balance. And you can think about the kinds of job-based leadership things that you can do for that. I want to pick at reinforcement just a little bit. The antecedent leads to the behavior, which leads to the consequence. That's the simplest model for behavioristic explanation. And we have 4 tools. Positive reinforcement is you do the behavior and I give you a pleasant reinforcer. Extinction, there's 4 tools, there's the second one, is that I've been giving you a pleasant reinforcer, but I'm going to take it away. And so I take away that reinforcer. I used to let a union steward come in and tell me lots of bad things about the workplace. I found them useful for a while, and then I found out he was just, at some point, he was running out of material, and he just was ratting out people he didn't personally like. And so I quit giving him my attention. I quit making time for him. I quit thanking him. And so I withdrew the pleasant reinforcer he had been receiving over the last few years so that his behavior then would become extinct. It did. Punishment is the applying of an unpleasant reinforcer. So you did a behavior I did not want, and so I stiffed you for it. I punished you in some way. I gave you a write-up in your permanent personnel record, or I fired you. And here's another one, just like extinction, people don't know as well. And then people confuse punishment with negative reinforcement. But negative reinforcement and extinction both share something. They're taking away something. So positive reinforcement and punishment are direct one-step processes, but extinction and negative reinforcement are a multiple-step process, and it has to do with taking away something. So negative reinforcement is taking away punishment, taking away an unpleasant reinforcer. For instance, I had a supervisor that would tell you to do something a certain way, and if you didn't do it, he would stand there and bother you with his unwelcome attention until you would finally change and do it the way that he likes. That's negative reinforcement. So here's all 4 tools that you have. And there's schedules of reinforcement. I think that everybody has a pretty good feel for how they can use reinforcement at the workplace. At the end of this, I give some cases where you can apply this.